dramatic landscape, unpredictable weather.
Feels like a different planet. The Atlantic Ocean, land of the sheep.
High cliffs, remote island.
18 islands.
When we flew over, it looked like we were flying into like a whole nother world.
We felt we were in a different planet. I researched a lot about the Faroe Islands, and it turns out there's a lot of epic landscapes over there that I've never seen before in any parts of the world. So that's why the Faroe Islands is #1 on my bucket list.
On our trip in Iceland, when I was going on a road trip with Makito, he mentioned about going to Faroe Islands, and I knew that it was just going to be another epic adventure there.
On this trip, I brought my friend Lauren. When I asked her what was her #1 place she wanted to travel to, she responded, Faroe Islands. So I invited her on this trip.
Ever since I've been really young, I've had an interest in traveling the world and seeing amazing places. And when I was about like 12 years old, I saw pictures of like the Faroe Islands like online. I was like, where is this place I have to go? Because the landscapes are just beautiful.
After checking out a church in town, we went to the famous waterfall called Foster Waterfall, which was an 18-minute drive away from the airport, and the place just felt like a dream world. One of the things we really wanted to do in this trip was to catch the sunrise at least once, and we went to the Witch's Finger to try to do that. And when we got there, it was really cloudy and we couldn't see the sun. After trying to catch sunrise, we went on a 30-minute hike to the largest lake in Faroe Islands called Sorvagsvatn. And on our hike, the landscape just made it feel like we were on a different planet.
Navia were very, very kind, very nice. I love talking to the owners and getting to know more about the companies and more about like fashion and culture in the Faroe Islands, and they were amazing to work with, wonderful people. And then we headed off to go to this one road, and it was very curvy. So I think we got some good shots and got to see the sunset and everything.
It was like golden yellow color. It only lasted for a few minutes and then it went away, but that's the crazy weather that we have in the Faroe Islands, where the weather can change like every 10 minutes and you don't know what to expect. Once we got to the ferry, we got out of the car and then we went up to like the lounges where everyone else was there. There's a dirt road leading to this cliff area. They're cone-shaped and they're coming out of the ground. And we tried to go to this one bridge that's the northern part of Suðuroy, but we weren't able to make it on time because we had to go back and catch our ferry. But we also stopped on that dirt road. The tour guide to the Keller Lighthouse, he was very nice. He was also very informative, and he was able to answer all the questions that we had about the Faroe Islands.
Honestly, it was probably one of my favorite parts of the trip was getting to do that hike with a tour guide because it was just so informative and I learned a lot and got to experience the culture as well as seeing, great sights at the lighthouse and hiking up a mountain that I probably never would have even known was a hiking path without him.
He also told some interesting stories about why there was a lighthouse and that he was one of the 8 people on that village. One of the most challenging hikes that I've been on this trip was the hike to Mount Clacker because we just finished a hike to the Keller Lighthouse. That hike we were able to drive up 2/3 of the way, so that helped us save a lot of energy and time, and probably one of the best lighting scenarios. We just missed it by a few minutes. We still made the most of our time there and we got some really cool shots.
When we were planning this trip, we wanted to go all the way from the west coast of the islands to the east coast. And the furthest east we went was to an island called Vidoy.
We went to this tiny village called Jove. There's a famous gorge there, and then we saw these crazy waves just keep crashing. Then after that, we headed over to those 2 black cabins that are shaped like igloos. Just seeing those cabins was pretty crazy because it felt like we were on another planet. And we had Lauren in her red dress as she was kind of walking around in front of the cabins, and we took photos of that.
I think the idea was very creative and not a lot of people have probably done it at that location.
One of the hikes that we wanted to do was to hike up to Nguyen mountain, and once we got to the hiking spot, we saw that it was pretty much covered in snow, and the weather looked promising at first, but then as we tried to hike up towards the top, it started to become worse and worse. And since there were a lot of clouds forming and also it started snowing, the view was completely covered in clouds, and we were left a little bit disappointed, and so we decided to head back down.
On our last day, we decided to check out the Mula Foster waterfall again. We had about 30 minutes to shoot there before heading to the airport to catch our return flight home.